Welcome back to the Lifestyle Lifters Show. If you're a returning guest, welcome. And if you're a new listener, I really hope you get some value from today's show. It's going to be an open Q&A. And before I dive into the meat and potatoes of today's episode, I firstly want to acknowledge our fan of the week. And our fan of the week this time, it was a comment I got, a DM I got on Instagram, and it was from Maureen. And Maureen said, "Hi. As usual, you did a smashing job with your latest podcast. I love that you gave your listeners another perspective to listen to. I'm always looking forward to learning new things and new ways of achieving my desires. I respect the advice and insight I get from those who have had success in their journey, whatever that might be. I also respect when someone has the courage to tell others when something didn't work out as planned so they don't go down the same rabbit hole and waste time in doing so. Your podcasts have been my new drug of choice. LOL. Maureen, thank you so much. Not the worst new drug of choice to be introducing yourself to, and I really do appreciate that. And thank you so much. And thank you to everyone else too for the reviews, for all the feedback, and for everyone who is listening. And today it's going to be an open Q&A. And I'm going to be discussing my three main pillars, which are strength training, nutrition, and of course lifestyle, because this is the Lifestyle Lifter Show, and how to actually integrate this into your lifestyle. So without further ado, these questions, they were sent to me on my Instagram story. So my Instagram is at Mac Lifestyle Fitness, and I put up a sticker, just ask me a question. I'm sure we're all familiar with those. And I got a couple of questions, which I said I'm actually going to discuss in a bit more detail. So the first question is, does weight training help burn fat and make you become more defined compared to cardio? Absolutely love this question. And I'm going to caveat by saying, in order for lifting weights to win, cardio shouldn't necessarily have to lose or vice versa. So ideally, because the goal here is to drop body fat, if you can combine and incorporate both, that is going to be optimal for results. Okay, that really is going to be optimal. But in terms of which one is going to be better, more defined, so to help you become more defined, well, the winner there is going to be strength training. Because let's first of all address, when we say more defined, other people like to use words like toned up or get leaner or shaped, get in good shape. What gives your body that shape and that tone? It is muscle in the absence of body fat. Muscle in the absence of body fat is what gives where you get that shape and that tone from. It is not your bones. It is not anything else you might think it is. It is having muscle in the absence of body fat. So how do you build muscle? You build muscle by resistance training, by lifting weights. How do you drop body fat? You drop body fat by being in a caloric deficit. So combining both of those together, lifting weights with being in a deficit, that is going to help you become more defined. But where does this leave cardio? Does that mean that cardio is completely, irrelevant? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because cardio will help you burn some additional calories, and that's going to increase the size of your deficit. So for optimal results when it comes to lifting weights versus doing cardio, I would try and incorporate both. Now, if we actually assess lifting weights and cardio in terms of the calories you burn during the session, there is actually only one winner there, and that is cardio. You would burn more calories in a traditional 45-minute steady state cardio run, let's say, compared to a 45-minute strength session where you do maybe 3 sets of 8 to 12, resting 60 to 90 seconds. Absolutely only one winner there. Okay. But this is where the real benefits of lifting weights come in. Because although doing cardio will burn more calories during the session, what about after the session? Now, here's the great thing about lifting weights. Muscle is more metabolically active than fat. What does that mean? The more muscle mass you have on your frame, the more calories you will burn while you rest. I'll say that again. The more muscle you have on your frame, the more calories you will burn while you rest, while you sit down and watch Netflix for the evening, while you do whatever you want. You're going to burn more calories at rest. So imagine a scenario now. We've got two twins, Shane and Ryan. Both weigh the same, 75 kilos, but they look quite differently. Shane has more muscle on his frame than Ryan, and they both watch the exact same show that evening. Shane, by the law of averages, by nature, he's going to burn more calories while resting compared to Ryan because he's got more lean muscle mass in his frame. So that is where the real benefits of lifting weight comes in. Not just during the session, but after the session. It's that after calorie burn. Okay. So it takes longer for your engine to cool down after a strength workout compared to a cardio workout. Now, on the topic of actually burning calories during a session, Maureen, you mentioned you are the fan of the week, and you mentioned it's great to get some insight into some of the mistakes that you have made, so we don't make the same one. Well, here's another mistake I made, and please do not make this one. When I ran the marathon in 2018, in the build up to it, I really wanted to assess my heart rate and just see what different zones I was training in, which, to be fair, I thought was somewhat important. And I don't regret that at all. You know, am I in my steady state zone? Am I in more of like an anaerobic, or am I at like, how close am I towards max effort? And I actually found that really interesting. Okay, you know, whereabouts was my heart rate at different points at different intervals of the session. So it was really, really beneficial. But I had such a fixed mindset around it that I basically made a rule. For whatever reason, I said that if I didn't burn 700 calories, if I didn't burn 700 calories in this session, it's not as good. It's not that good. And the reason I chose 700 was because at the time, my maintenance calories were around about 3,500. In other words, I'd eat 3,500 calories and I'd be able to maintain or stay the same weight. And I'd always say, you know, I want to burn about 20% of my maintenance calories in a session. Again, I'm not saying this is right. This is just what I did. I had a really fixed mindset around this. So essentially, I attached my success, and I attached, you know, my level of achievement to something, to a number, essentially to a number on my fitness tracker, because I had one of those Polar watches, and the Polar watch, it actually comes with a heart rate monitor and chest strap where you tie the strap around just below your chest, and you have the monitor there and it links up with it. So it is pretty cool. But I attached all of the quality of my session down to just how many calories I burned, which was crazy. It really was. And often there were days in the gym when I was finished my session, but I was at 650 calories. So I had to burn another 50 calories. Insane stuff. So please do not judge the quality of your session by how many calories you burn. Don't just train for a feeling. Don't just train to get a burn. Okay. You know, if you want to burn, as the saying goes, light a match. But we lift weights to get results. So judge the quality of your progress, of your session by your results, and not just a number that your Fitbit, your Garmin, your Polar, whatever tracking device you use, it shows. Okay. So I just wanted to kind of slightly go off track on that topic. Okay. So we are now clear that lifting weights, the benefits come after the workout than during the workout. Whereas cardio, a lot of the benefits are during the workout in terms of calories burned. Now, I always say though, which is better? So, you know, which is better when it comes to becoming more defined? As I said, in order for lifting weights to win, cardio shouldn't have to lose. But if you are someone now looking to drop a bit of body fat coming up to the summer months, I always say your number one goal, the number one goal should be to maintain as much lean muscle as possible. You want to maintain as much lean muscle as possible. We may not necessarily build muscle, you know, very, very difficult in a deficit, especially the more established you are in this game and the longer you've been doing it. But if we can maintain, wouldn't that be pretty solid? If we can maintain while eating less, that would be pretty good. But here's the problem with losing weight and just losing weight by cardio alone. You become a smaller version of yourself. Anytime I'm on a coaching call with someone and I ask them, what would you have tried in the past to lose weight? Often they would just say, I would have tried running 5Ks, 10Ks, 3-4 times a week, or spinning classes, or cycling. They'd be the most common ones. But yet, they'd always say afterwards, but I still had that, I felt that I lost weight, but I just feel my appearance didn't really change. I didn't look that differently when I was 5 kilos lighter than when I was 5 kilos heavier. And herein lies the lesson. If you're looking to drop body fat and you are in a deficit, but the only form of exercise you do is cardio, you become skinny fat because you just become a smaller version of yourself. You just become a smaller version of yourself. But if the goal is to get more definition, remember what I said at the start, what gives you that definition? It is lifting weights, strength training. Muscle is what adds that definition, that shape, that tone to your body. And the only way you can build muscle is by resistance training. Okay, that is why it's really important to strength train, even if you are looking to lose fat. Strength training year round should be a priority. Now, strength training combined with cardio, that is a nice 1-2 punch there. If you are looking to get more defined, if you're looking to get leaner, if you're looking to lose some weight. But strength training is, without a doubt, it should be the number one priority. Cardio second. Okay, now we all know the benefits of lifting weights, and there's of course cardiovascular benefits too. So that's why a combination of both is optimal. And what form of cardio you do, I did speak about this in previous podcasts. That's kind of up to you. Success leaves clues. And there's a reason, I'm not saying running is bad, but there's a reason a lot of bodybuilders, and again, I'm not saying anyone here, I'm sure a lot of my audience anyways, we're not looking to step up on stage anytime soon. We just want to, get in a bit better shape, look a bit better, feel a bit more confident in our clothes. But success does leave clues, and a lot of the bodybuilders out there, they don't do any form of running at all when they're up on the stage. Their main form of cardio is what we call low intensity steady state, where they might walk on the treadmill for 45 minutes to an hour at a decent enough tempo so their heart rate's around about 60%. But the reason they don't do running, a big reason is because after a run, you'd be absolutely starving. Compared to after a brisk walk, you'd be grand, you'd be fine. And as a result, if you're starving after your run, you're more likely to eat more. And then that's going to reduce the size of your deficit. Sure, you burn a few more calories, but it's much, much easier to eat more calories than it is to burn more calories. I'll say that much. Okay. So, LISS is one form of cardio, low intensity steady state. Other forms of cardio include traditional run, your cycle, your rower, etc., etc. And then we've hit as well, high intensity interval training, which I spoke about previously. Okay, but regardless of which approach you take to your cardio, combining the cardio with lifting weights, that is going to be most optimal for getting definition. But if you had to pick one and you want that definition, strength training wins every day. Okay. All right, so hopefully that's clear. On to my second question, which great question again. I must say, really great question. And this was, does your body stop making progress if you do the same type of workout routinely without changing at all? Okay. This is something Barry O'Sullivan and I spoke about. And one of the common problems we see working as online fitness coaches is, where too many people are program hopping. In other words, tomorrow is Monday. And Monday's workout is going to be compiled of some fancy exercises I saw on Instagram on Sunday. And then Monday week, not this Monday, the following Monday, that Monday's workout is going to be compiled of some fancy exercises I saw on YouTube the previous day. Repeat. That is the definition of program hopping, where no two days are the same. And I mean, if you're program hopping, how are you actually meant to know if something is working or not? So you got to give it a chance. But then there's always a dichotomy. There's always a balance here. And on the flip side, there's someone, you know, who goes to the gym and they've been doing 3 sets of 10 reps in the bench press at 60 kilos for the last 2 years. And they have not changed up their routine at all. They do benching, they might do a few bicep curls, a bit of core work, and the job is done. That is not optimal either. So you need to find the right balance between giving a program enough time and not spending too long at it, that you're just going to plateau, you're going to stall, and you're not going to see results. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, how much time it's going to be dependent. How much time it really is going to be dependent. At Mac Lifestyle Fitness, what we like to do is we like to change up our clients' programs on average every 4 weeks. And we find 4 weeks is solid because, you know, week 1, it's all about just finding your feet, setting the foundation. We don't try set PRs in week 1. We just get accustomed to the new routine. Then week 2, we add some progressions. Let's add an extra set, or let's add a few more extra reps. So we try progress. Now week 3, we can really push it on. We've gone through this session already 2 times, this is our 3rd time. And by week 4, we should be hitting PRs. However, if we were to do these in maybe 6 or 8 week intervals, what we find is that our members, they can kind of get a bit bored of doing something for 5, 6, 7 times in a row. So we always find the sweet spot with our clients is about 4 weeks, that every 4 weeks we start a new plan. So as they get fitter, stronger, leaner, we can change things up. Because here's the thing, everything does work. Everything works. Machines, free weights, barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells, everything works, but nothing works forever. So it's just about finding that right balance between too little and too much variety. And it also comes back to your goals as well. Shane Story and I spoke previously. And if your goal is building strength, and you're focusing on the big 3, the squat, the bench, the deadlift, they're the big 3. If you're focusing on those 3, you don't want too much variety. I mean, the best way to get better at squatting is simply by squatting. But then if your goal is muscle building, hypertrophy, variety is actually a bigger factor in that. I'll give an example, okay? I love doing like hotel gym workouts if I'm ever going away. It's just a novelty of doing something new. So I primarily use free weights, barbell, dumbbell, kettlebell, sled, etc., etc. I don't use machines too often. That's not to say machines are bad. Just especially for legs, it just doesn't fit my approach to training, okay? But then if I ever do a hotel workout, or I'm away and I bang out 45 minutes in the hotel gym, my God, would I be sore the following day. And why? I mean, okay, your muscles, they don't get confused. They don't have feelings. But adding and sprinkling in this variety, that's a great way of just like almost shocking the system. And it is a good way of building muscle. But not the most optimal approach if your goal is to get stronger at the big 3. In that scenario, because I do take pride in my numbers, and a lot of our members do as well. And what we like to do when we program is we add much more variety to your accessory lifts, but we don't add as much variety to the compound. So for example, say the lift that we want to improve on is the deadlift. Phase 1, we might do elevated deadlift, where you have the bar elevated on 2 blocks either side. Imagine like just 2 20 kilo bumper plates. Phase 2, then we do deadlift off the floor. So we remove the 2 plates, and now you got to pull that bit lower, which makes it that bit more difficult. And then phase 3, you know what? Maybe we do a deficit deadlift where you're actually standing on a 20 kilo plate. And again, you've got more of a pull from the floor. So we're doing the exact same exercise. We're just doing a different variation of it. That's what we like to do when we program for our clients for the big compound lifts. And then for your accessory lifts are meant to build upon your compound lift. So in the context of a deadlift, you want to increase your deadlift, you need to have a strong back. You need to have strong glutes, strong hamstrings. So a good accessory lift for the deadlift might be a pull-up. That's really going to help build your back, or a barbell row. Or something for the lower body, maybe like a pause deadlift. And we will change those accessory lifts more frequently. You can kind of have a bit more freeway flexibility with those, but for the compound lifts, we don't like to add as much variety because, again, the number one factor when building strength, you don't want as much variety. You need to practice consistently doing the movement. And then we like to sprinkle in more variety when it comes to the accessory lifts. So does your body stop making progress if you do the same type of work routinely without changing it up? Of course it does. But I genuinely feel most people err on the side of changing it up too frequently versus doing the same thing over and over again. And it's about finding that right balance. For us, we say every 4 weeks on average, but it doesn't have to be 4 weeks. Assess your progress. If you are making progress, well, keep going. But if suddenly, what you were doing in week 4 was more than what you're doing in week 8, it might be an indication that you either need a deload or it's time to change things up and add a bit more variety. Okay. On to the next question. Protein powder more beneficial than protein from food? So we always say with protein, look, and just in general, our kind of whole philosophy in nutrition is we try to eat as much real helpful whole foods as possible. An apple is just an apple. We don't need to question what ingredients it has. Whereas an apple juice, lots of ingredients there. We can't really recognize what it was or what it used to be. So we try to focus on eating as much real foods as possible. Foods that your grandparents, your great-grandparents were eating back in the day. However, we also know, just given today's day and age, this isn't always possible. So my preference would always be getting protein from real sources first, like your lean meats, your chicken breast, your turkey, your steak mince, your salmon, your cod, and so on. But if that's not possible, we work with a lot of busy professionals who might train 7 in the evening and they might not be home till 8:30. They're in bed at 9:30 and they have to get up for work at 6 a.m. And sometimes it's not always possible to, go home and cook up a lovely stir fry. So I really do love using protein powder. But I like using it as a supplement to when you cannot get protein from real sources in your diet. And when it comes to getting protein in your diet, you want to make sure it has all of the essential and non-essential amino acids. There's 20 of them in total. 9 essential, 11 non-essential. And that's where it comes back to getting it from those leanest cuts of meat and so on. But if that is not possible, then absolutely use your protein powder. But just a word on buying protein. Not all protein is created equal. And when I buy a brand of protein, you first of all, as few ingredients as possible is optimal. The more ingredients it has, in general, the more processed it is. So you don't want to be, looking at a bag of protein you bought online and not being able to read the 1 of the or 2 of the or 3 of the 15 ingredients it has. Ideally, you want as few ingredients as possible. If it's a good quality brand, it should contain all of the 20 essential and non-essential amino acids. And a lot of the good quality brands, they have, of course, they'll put down, BCAs as well, about 5 grams of BCAs, which are part of the essential amino acids. Okay, but when you're buying protein, just to recap, as few ingredients as possible, and it should contain all of the essential amino acids. Now, there are so many benefits to buying protein. I mean, to be fair, if you are in a rush, or even sometimes if I'm going away and I want to tie me over for like an hour, 2 hours between a meal, I don't want to eat a meal, but I'm kind of hungry. I don't want to be going into my meal starving. I mean, a protein shake is just so great. And it's very flexible too when you're cooking. So I definitely would recommend everyone to have protein powder, but use it as a supplement. Don't just rely on it. Okay. Next question. So just any tips and guidelines for eating for a shift worker? So I do work with quite a few shift workers, guards, nurses, factory workers, and so on. And here's the problem. They might be up for 16 hours a day and they could be eating for every single hour of the day while they're awake for those full 16 hours. And if that is the case, you're never really giving your body a chance to actually digest the food and take it all in. When you think about eating for 16 hours, like it takes calories to digest calories. And that can take its toll on you. So what I like to do is we like to establish, if possible, like an eating window, whereby from the moment we consume calories, ingest calories, we try to be finished within optimally like 12 hours or even less. Now we know that it's not always possible, especially with shift workers, because, I often feel for some of the nurses out there and the guards, of course, and any other shift worker too, where they don't really have established lunch hours where you can eat at this time and they know exactly they're going to be eating at that time. Because often the nature of their shifts, because, a lot of it depends on just what happens on the day. Sometimes they will and sometimes they won't be able to sit down, which I don't really think is fair. I mean, I don't work well when I'm hungry. When I'm starving, I need to have some food in me. It's not the most pleasant feeling when you are hungry and you gotta, operate at a high level. You're a high performer operating without much food. That can be difficult. Now, going back to the topic though of advice for eating for shift workers. So I would always try to establish a 12-hour or less eating window, if possible. It's not always going to be possible, but we can at least aim for progress, not perfection. That's what we always say. So let's reverse engineer this. I know a lot of guards, they do like 4 days on, 4 days off, and the shifts are often the night ones, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So imagine we've done our first night, we're on our second night. What I would like to do there is, first of all, if you're going to strength train before your shift, not after it. Because the amount of willpower I'm sure you'd have to use after doing, 12 hours a night to then go to the gym and do another 60 minutes, that can be tough. That can be tough. Whereas at least if you train beforehand, you've a bit more energy, you're feeling good, you're feeling energized, and you're ready to attack the day. But then if you're to reverse engineer this, okay, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., and imagine you go to bed at 7:30. So you go to bed at 7:30, give yourself 8 hours sleep. So that would be what time? You get up at about 3:30 and you've to work again at 7 p.m. So ideally, if you reverse engineer this, like I always think, look, everyone is different. But I feel for a lot of people, like eating maybe 2 hours or so before bed, there's nothing wrong with that. So if you go to bed at 7:30 and your last meal is at 5:30 a.m., well, then the following day you're up at 3:30 p.m. If you hold off eating for like an hour or two, isn't that a nice way to establish an eating window? And even if you do eat at 3:30, 4:30, it's still only like a 13-hour window. But that's what I kind of recommend for shift workers, that they try not to be eating all around the clock and they try, if possible, to establish just some form of an eating window. Because we crave off structure. And it is nice to have structure, if possible, to our food. And, it's an easy way to rack up a lot of calories if you're eating for 16 hours versus 12 hours. That's just another benefit. And I know we spoke about, protein powder just previously. What I recommend for a lot of our shift workers is they have like some form of a convenient shake that if in the event that they do not have time to grab their lunch, then then we can just have this convenient shake. And we always say a lean protein, a clean carb, and a green. So lean protein, protein powder, clean carb, oats, and a green. I know in Lidl they do fantastic, actually. They're really, really great, where you can get these like frozen smoothie packages, which is a combination of berries and spinach. Like that's a great, nutrient dense shake you could have there, where you had a scoop of protein, some oats for carbs for energy, some fruits and some veggies all fired in. And if you want to add some icing on the cake, a healthy fat as well, like maybe a small bit of nuts or nut butter or nut powder, something like that. Okay, so it's always good to have like a bit of a backup plan if plan A doesn't go. So that'll be my advice for shift workers. If possible, try to establish an eating window. Try to get up and go to bed at the same time on the days you're doing your shift. And if it's not always possible to have established lunch hours, which I know it's not, and it's definitely not easy, perhaps consider bringing one of those like convenient shakes with you so you can at least have them on the go. And it only takes literally a minute to prepare. Blend up some protein, mix it with water, have some oats, some frozen fruits and berries, or some frozen berries and veg, and a small bit of nut butter or something like that. Okay. And finally, then, last question of today. So this is more so lifestyle integrated. And what did the first 90 minutes, 60 to 90 minutes of your day look like? I was not always this way, but I loved getting up early in the morning. In fact, there was a time where, I used to get up and it would be like 12 midday. I could not do that now, and I wouldn't even want to do it now if you paid me. As one of my friends says, you miss the morning, you miss the day. So I love getting up early. I get up between 5 and 6 a.m. And here is the first thing I do when I get up, or I don't do, shall I say. And that is, I do not hit that snooze button. Make a rule for yourself. Do not hit that snooze button. Because I've done it in the past. I'm not sure about you, but for me, when I used to work as a primary school teacher, got to be in school. School starts at 8:50. I'd always be there about 30 minutes before to get my lessons, preparation, etc. done, which would be 20 past 8. Then reverse engineered, I have to be leaving my house for like a 40-minute commute. I'd usually leave at like 7:30, which would mean that like if I wanted to do like an hour gym workout, it'd be 6:30, give myself 15 minutes to shower, 6:15, and give myself 20 minutes to get out the door in the morning. So I really got to be up before 6. But I've done it before where I had great intentions of going to the gym before school, get in, get out, get it done. And then 6 a.m. hits, snooze button. 10 minutes later, snooze button. And then all of a sudden it's 20 past 6. And by the time you get changed, it's 20 to 7. And now you're thinking, is there any point in even going now? Because I'll only have like 30 minutes and I'll have to be out the door again. And that does more damage than you actually might think. Because essentially, what I was doing there was I was starting the day stacking with a loss, And that can compound. You kind of feel like I felt like a failure. And I know I am a little hard on myself, but that's kind of how I felt when I said I was going to do something and I didn't do it. And then, that can kind of feed into your negativity, and it can impact your mood, because all of a sudden you're meant to have your evening free and now you're going to go to the gym instead because you couldn't get it done in the morning. So I would say whatever time you choose to get up at, just make a rule. Do not hit that snooze button. So what I do is I don't actually leave my alarm, which I previously did, beside my pillow. I'll leave it away from the bed in the corner, which means I have to get up out of bed to turn it off. And then once I'm up, I simply stay up. Now, I don't just jump straight out of bed at 5 a.m. It might take me 2 or 3 minutes before I, open my eyes fully and I'm awake and I'm up. But still, I do not hit that snooze button. So that is the first part of my day. Do not hit the snooze button. Secondly, hydration. I always drink some water. Bring some water with me before I go to bed, so I can have it first thing in the morning. I'll drink anywhere from 500 to 1.5 liters of water in the morning, first thing. That's always what I do. Make sure I'm well hydrated. And then once I hydrate, now let's focus on changing your state. Okay. And how I do that is just 3 to 5 minutes of exercise. So back home in Galway, I have a chin-up bar. It has served me so well. It's probably 8, 9 years, maybe even 10 years old at this stage. I'm not sure. But I bang out about, 15 or so chin-ups is what my routine would be, 30 push-ups and 50 band pull-aparts with a red band, a mini red band that I have. Nice way to train the upper body, the upper back, your chest, and so on. Okay. And I would do this, and then all of a sudden I'm awake. So I change my state through exercise. Now here in Marbella, I don't have a pull-up bar, so I just do about 30 push-ups and about 100 band pull-aparts. Again, it doesn't really matter what you do. It's the fact that you're doing something, you're moving something, you're exerting yourself. And all of a sudden you change your state. And then I'm awake. And I've already built some wins because I didn't hit the snooze button. I've drank some water. Now I've done a small bit of exercise. I've already have 3 wins, and the day is only 10 minutes old. On to the next thing. I'll splash cold water on my face, just again to fully wake me up. And finally, here's something else I don't do, and that is I don't check social media first thing. Because again, I used to make this mistake, the alarm is beside the bed, you hit the snooze button 3 times, you finally do wake up, and then you check the notifications on your phone straight away. And then once you check the notifications, you go on Instagram, you go scrolling. And then you might see a YouTube video link and you click into that. And all of a sudden you're meant to be up 90 minutes ago. And 90 minutes later, you still find yourself staring at the ceiling in your room in bed. That's not good for the confidence. Certainly not good for me anyways. I just didn't feel good, didn't feel productive. So I don't check my notifications straight away because all of that is outside my control. What is in my control are what I choose to actually allow, what thoughts I allow to enter my mind. So that's why I like to listen to like a podcast, a self-development podcast, or an audiobook, an Audible, while I'm doing, the exercise, while I'm drinking the water and so on. And I just read 1 page of a book from the Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. And this is like just a small self-development book. And it just gets you like reflecting and thinking and gets me at least in a good headspace for the day. Because I always say I'm a coach and a big part of my job is of course helping others. But in order for me to be able to help others, I first of all got to be able to take care of myself. And that's why for those like first couple of minutes of the day, I just don't allow any outside noise come in. It's just my time. And then once I do that, I'm in a much better mood. I feel much more productive. I've stacked a lot of wins and I'm feeling good. And then we go about the day. So that is my morning routine in full. It doesn't take too long at all. So I don't hit the snooze button. I drink some water, do a small bit of exercise, splash some cold water on the face, and I'll read 1 page of the Daily Stoic. And finally, not forgetting, then I'll have a coffee. That's a nice way to wrap off the morning routine. But I never drink coffee until I'm at least, somewhat hydrated. Because I used to make the mistake again in the past on those days that I did get up before work to go to the gym and just have the coffee. And I just felt it didn't sit well with me. But drinking the water first and the coffee afterwards, absolutely fine. And that is all for today's show. That is all for today's show. So thank you again for everyone for listening. I hope you got some value out of this. Maybe you change your perspective about a morning routine, about not hitting the snooze button. Or maybe you might have learned something new about, lifting weights versus doing cardio. In order for one to win, the other doesn't have to lose. Or if you're a shift worker, maybe you're going to try establish a 12-hour less eating window. or just in general, anyone out there going traveling, going to a game, going on a hike, to have some form of a quick, convenient shake, or what to look out for when you buy protein powder. Whatever it is, I hope you have 1 to 3 takeaways from this. 1 to 3 takeaways from this. What I like to do after every podcast to listeners, it's what I forget who framed this. It's called active recall, because you only know something when you're able to teach it. So I'll just call out, okay, what are my 3 takeaways? What's my 1 takeaway from this? And once I'm able to explain it and just call it out, actively recall it, that's a good sign that it's actually stuck and it's something ingrained in you. So what are your 1 to 3 takeaways? That is all for today's show. So again, thank you so much to everyone for listening. Please subscribe. Please leave a review, leave a rating. Just pay the fee. And the fee is, look, I will show up for you. I'll give as much value as possible, answer as many questions as possible. And in return, if you did get some value from the show, if it changed your perspective, it made you laugh, whatever it might be, please share the show through word of mouth, one of your friends, or tag me on your social stories and I will repost it at Mac Lifestyle Fitness. But please share the show, because everything I do with this, it's going to be done organically through good people like you spreading the word and helping me reach more people. So thank you so much for everyone for listening. Have a great rest of your day. And until next week, the Lifestyle Lifter Show, that is all for today. Thank you very much.